The primitive man grabbed a handful of dung and sniffed it carefully. It seemed that the yak was not far away, so he put the dung on his face to cover up the human scent. Then he led his people slowly closer and waited for the right moment. A few ants crawled up. The man swallowed it without looking. It smelled so good. The yaks were slowly approaching and were in range. The chief immediately gave the order, "Attack!" The clansmen swarmed on them. They threw their stone spears and blocked the yak's path. The herd could only turn around, but they didn't know that an abyss lay ahead. At this moment, one yak was enraged. It turned around and charged at the vulnerable human. The boy was knocked off his feet in an instant and pushed all the way to the cliff. In the nick of time, the father threw his stone spear, but it was too late. The chief rushed to the edge of the cliff and looked down. The son grabbed the stone with one hand and was in danger of falling at any moment. The father shouted for him to hold on a little longer, but the boy was wounded and had no strength left. As the stone fell, he also fell down the cliff. Fortunately, the boy landed on the stone wall, but by now he was in a coma. Looking at his son, who didn't know whether he was alive or dead, the father's heart was burning with anxiety. He even wanted to climb down and save him. The clansmen rushed to stop him and told him that the boy was dead. As the leader of the tribe, he could not risk his life for this. All his people still needed him to bring them home. Their wives and children were waiting for them to return. The man calmed down and remained at the edge of the cliff. He shouted to wake up his son. The clansmen went to the bottom of the cliff and gathered their prey. They were finally able to have a full meal, but the boy didn't wake up until dark. Before he left, the man made a tombstone for his son with stones. Then he left in pain. A mountain eagle looking for food accidentally found the boy. It bit the boy's lip. The boy woke up in pain and threw it away. At that moment, he suddenly realized that he was lying on the edge of a cliff and had broken his leg. He looked down to the height of 20 stone spears. He called out to his father, but no one answered. The boy knew in his heart that he would die if he just sat there. So he began to try to climb down. But as he climbed, there was no place to land. He tried his best to hold onto the rock crevice. Because of the dilemma, he ended up hanging in midair. The weather was unpredictable in primitive times. A rainstorm suddenly came. The boy struggled to hold on. Feeling cold and hungry, he looked down in fear, but found that a lot of rain had accumulated at the bottom of the cliff. So he made a bold decision. I don't know how long it took for the boy to wake up because the rainwater had accumulated into a river. He was lucky to recover alive. He covered his broken ankle and kept shouting for help. He was alone in the whole valley. He dragged his broken leg and crawled to the side to drink the muddy rainwater. When he pulled out his left foot, he realized that it had swollen high. He found a stone to fix the ankle, and during the pain, he then twisted it hard. Finally, he fixed it with a tree branch and could barely walk. After a long time, the boy finally reached the top of the cliff. He saw the grave his father had built for him. The boy was desperate. He kicked down the stone in anger. Without his father, he could not find his way home. Just then danger struck. The wolves were on him from a distance. The boy was so scared that he ran away immediately. He dragged his injured foot and looked back while running. The wolves were still chasing after him. He climbed a dead tree, but was bitten by a wolf. At the critical moment, the boy pulled out a dagger and stabbed it hard. The wolf was wounded and fell to the ground, but other wolves were still guarding the area. The wolves didn't leave until late at night. When he woke up, the boy found the wounded wolf lying on the ground. It seemed to be dying. He cautiously approached and raised his stone spear to kill it. But at that moment, the wolf slowly opened its eyes and let out a faint hiss. In the end, the boy had a weak heart. He usually didn't even dare to kill a wild boar, let alone an injured wolf. Although he didn't dare to kill it, he couldn't be bitten by it either. So the boy tied up the wolf's mouth with a strip of cloth. This wolf was about to die. The boy was kind enough to save him, but it showed its teeth and grimaced. So the boy found a rope and approached it carefully. He tied its mouth with the rope. The boy was hungry for a long time. He picked up the wolf, but did not eat it. Instead, he took him to the river and cleaned his wounds. At night, one man and one wolf spent the night in a cave. The next morning, the boy just woke up. He turned his head and found that the wolf had broken free from the rope. He entered his fear and brought a bowl of water. However, the wolf kept growling and was hostile to the boy. After some gentle reassurance, the wolf finally calmed down and accepted his kindness. But in the wilderness 20,000 years ago, it was too difficult for one man and one wolf to survive. The boy searched for half a day, but only found some worms that could barely satisfy his hunger. He gave a few to the wolf, although it was a bit disgusting. The wolf lowered its head and licked it clean. A few days later, The boy was so hungry that he couldn't stand it anymore. Faced with a wounded hare, he lifted a stone and smashed it down with a vengeance. After returning to the cave, the boy began to drill wood for fire. The wolf smelled the meat and jumped to the side. The boy tore off a piece of raw meat. He chewed and stared at the wolf viciously, swearing his sovereignty. With much effort, the boy finally built a fire. He ate the delicious roasted rabbit, but the wolf was drooling next to him. Seeing that the wolf was pitiful, the boy threw a bone to it. The wolf hurriedly ate it. After many days of recuperation, the boy gradually recovered from his injuries. Looking at the cold weather, the boy knew he had to return to the tribe before the snow came. The boy packed his things and prepared to leave, but the wolf bit down on his scarf and refused to let go. After a long time of stalemate, the boy finally snatched it back. He drove the wolf away with his mouth, but the wolf was calmly lying down, not willing to leave. The boy had no choice but to leave alone. But no matter where he went, the wolf always followed him. He shouted for it to go home, but the wolf quietly lay down. When he left, the wolf immediately followed him again. The boy drove it away with a wooden stick. The wolf ran directly to him with the stick in his mouth. The wolf took him as its master, and so they walked together. When they passed a valley, the wolf spotted some wild boars and immediately rushed to them. The boy also raised his stone spear. Soon the wolf drove the boars over, but because he had no hunting experience, the boy couldn't do it. The wolf looked back helplessly to where it seemed to be written on its face, conceited. "I almost caught it. Did you see that?" The wolf was even more convinced that the master seemed to be a loser. But later on, they gradually developed a tacit understanding and managed to catch a rabbit. But the boy was very stingy. He ate all the meat himself and only gave the wolf the bones. At this moment, the wolf's face seemed to be full of discontent. But when the boy fell asleep, he would still cheekily come over to him. Maybe he was the first dog in the world. Every morning, the wolf would wake the boy up. It stank so much that the boy took it to the lake and threw it down to take a bath. After it was clean, the wolf found the fish in the water. It struck out quickly and caught one easily. From then on, the boy gave the wolf the name Alpha. Winter was coming. The snow covered the whole valley. They worked together to hunt wild boars, and they worked very well together. At night, while resting, a black wolf approached. The boy raised his stone spear alertly. The Alpha was also in an attack position. Suddenly he relaxed and then slowly walked forward. He seemed to communicate with the black wolf. The boy understood instantly. He knew that the Alpha did not belong to him, so he persuaded him to return to the pack, because that's where he should be. The Alpha seemed to understand, although he was very reluctant to leave. He finally left. The boy was sad for the rest of the night. The next morning, he set out on his way home alone. To save the journey, he decided to cross the ice. The snowstorm 20,000 years ago was extremely harsh. He trudged on, but suddenly the ice broke beneath his feet, and the boy fell into a bone-chilling river of ice. The water was surging with rapids. He pounded the ice anxiously, but he was getting farther and farther away from the exit. Just then, a wolf appeared. It leaps up and tries to break the ice, but its strength was too small to break through. At the critical moment, the boy took out his dagger and chiseled hard. Fortunately, he succeeded. The Alpha immediately bit his sleeve and dragged him up. In the snow and ice, the boy was soaked to the skin and shivering from the cold. Fighting the cold, he hurriedly drilled wood for a fire. Finally, he lit the firewood. The boy took off his frowsy clothes and hugged the Alpha tightly. The wolf and the man kept each other warm, but there was no time for them to rest. They had to go home as soon as possible. As the wind and snow grew heavier, the boy spotted a tent. He rushed up to the old man to ask for help, but unfortunately, the old man was already frowning to death. The boy went into the tent, but found only a bow and arrow. They continued on their way, but the wind and snow were so strong that they had to take refuge in an ice cave. They thought they were safe, but they didn't know that a fierce black panther was hiding in the cave. He pounced on the boy. Alpha leapt on him. His skinny body fought with a huge panther, but soon he was torn and crushed. In the nick of time, the boy raised his bow and arrow with a shudder. This time he didn't hesitate and shot an arrow right into the panther's heart. The battle was finally over. The Alpha struggled to get up. After confirming the boy's safety, he then fell down heavily. They had met each other, but this wolf had saved him many times. The boy gently stroked the Alpha. He was determined to bring him home safely. The snowstorm was getting stronger and stronger. They struggled to move forward. The boy walked in front against the snow and wind, while Alpha dragged his injured body behind him. When he was tired, he lay down in the snow to rest. After a few days of running, the boy found the tribe's marker on a rock. It seems to be not far from home, but by now the Alpha could no longer walk. He was already badly wounded and was slowly falling behind. Eventually collapsing, the boy fell to his knees. He kept reassuring him to hold on just a little longer, and he would be there soon. but the alpha did not even have the strength to raise his eyes. Seeing this, the boy did not hesitate for a moment. He picked up his partner tightly and continued to move forward. He really does not know how he held on. After a few more days of walking, the boy numbly went over a snowy mountain, and the wolf in his arms was still alive or dead. He fell down heavily on the snow and fell into a deep sleep. In his dream, he seemed to have returned home and saw his parents who he missed. Suddenly the boy woke up with a jolt. He picked up the alpha and went on his way again. After an unknown period of time, a familiar tent came into view. He was finally home. The boy called out excitedly to Alpha, but he didn't respond at all. He stumbled towards the camp. The clan was shocked to see the boy, who was thought to be dead. Even his father couldn't believe that his son had miraculously survived. Before passing out, the boy used his last strength to point at the dying Alpha and entrusted him to his parents. When he woke up again, the first thing the boy did was turn his head to look at his partner. Although the Alpha survived, it was still so weak. Just then, the godmother seemed to notice something. She gently stroked Alpha's belly. Soon after, a cute wolf cub was born. It turned out that Alpha was already pregnant when she left the pack. In order to protect the boy, she fought with the fierce black panther. The boy stroked Alpha with his heart. The tribe was deeply moved. From then on, Alpha became a member of the tribe and lived peacefully with his children. Years later, the cubs grew up. They followed the human side, trusted each other, and fought side by side.